Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Oracle Chats. I'm Erin Lee of Heavenly Messenger. Bobby is away for the day. She's taking some family time, which is more than well deserved. So it's going to be you and me today, guys. We aren't going to be doing readings today, but if you do have any questions about spirituality, mediumship, angels, ascended masters, psychic readings, intuition, psychic ability, please bring them. That's what our time together is all about, is talking about the things that are going on for you and that are happening in your world. So I do have the comments open. I always love hearing from you, and I'm so incredibly grateful for the time that you've taken to be with me today. We're not doing readings today, but I was really drawn to pull the cards out just to see what messages we have coming up. My hope is that you'll be able to see the cards as I hold them up, because I've got the water reflecting all of the sunshine back. It's a little dark. So my apologies. In the coming weeks, I will have a better system figured out. But there's been a lot of stuff coming up. There's a lot of push and pull and lots of different directions right now happening in the world. Lots of emotion that's coming up. We're also coming up on the new moon in the next couple of days. So there's a lot that's happening. I wanted to pull a card or a couple of cards and just to see what messages are coming up for everybody who is watching. So whether you're joining us live or you're catching us later, these messages are for you. That's always my intention when I pull cards. So we're connecting with the archangels. For me, I love working with the archangels. It's just such a comfort. So that's who we're calling in. And I'm just asking, what do we need to know for the coming week? Let's focus on the coming week and just see what messages are coming up. I have a couple of things that I'd love to talk about with you guys today too, besides the reading and besides any questions that you guys have coming up or comments. But let's see what we have. So first of all, we've pulled 3 cards. And the first card that we have here, I think you can kind of see it. This is Archangel Sandalphon, and his message is gifts from God. Archangel Sandalphon is the angel who lifts our prayers up to God, source, universe, creator, whatever your belief system may be. And when Archangel Sandalphon comes through, it's always a confirmation that the things that we've been asking about, the things that we've been working on, that we've been asking for help with, that those prayers or those requests have been heard. So see this as confirmation. Whatever it is that is on your plate, is on your chest, is weighing on your heart, know that it is being heard and that things are moving behind the scenes to help to bring that to fruition. The message specifically on this card: we angels bring you gifts from your creator. Open your arms to receive. So when this comes up, not only is it confirmation that what we've been asking for has been heard, but also to look for ways that those prayers are being answered. One of the things that I find really important to talk about when it comes to asking for things or manifesting things or praying is that it doesn't always come about in the way that we're expecting. So, for example, we might be fixated on the answer to our questions or the help that we're needing is this one specific answer. And sometimes we kind of get tunnel vision on that. And if we don't see that one particular thing coming through, then we're not open to this being resolved in another way. And so one of the messages that's really important to recognize is, yes, your prayers and what you've been asking for, that's being heard, but be open to receiving in ways other than perhaps what you're expecting. So openness, know that angels, God, source, universe, ascended masters, that they're working behind the scenes for you, helping you and supporting you. The next card that we have here is the Patience card. This is Archangel Jophiel, and her message is: your dreams are blooming more rapidly than you realize. Still, they need nurturing and patience. So this card usually comes up at a time when we are overly fixating on the things that we're stressed about or the things that we're worried about, the things that we're working on or that we're manifesting or we're inviting into our lives. And so when Jophiel comes up with this card, she's saying, hey, it is really important to water those flowers, but at the same time, it's equally important to sunshine and to light because that's also needed for their growth. So put your energy, allow them to germinate, allow them to do what they're doing. So it's not saying, don't continue to work in your garden, don't continue to work on the dreams, but also make sure that you're focusing on other things and to have patience for the process that you're in. And then the last card I've pulled for us is also Archangel Jophiel. And her message is outdoors. Go outside, get some fresh air, connect with nature to relieve stress and gain new creative ideas. And I've certainly been feeling the pull for that. That's why we're out here again this week. The day is absolutely beautiful. And it's wonderful to be able to connect with the energy of the earth. We have the energy of the ocean behind us too, which is always really beautiful. So if you're feeling that pull, follow it. Archangel Jophiel also helps us to see the beauty in the things that are happening around us. And sometimes when we're working on things, we can become discouraged, or we can hyper focus, challenging, or the things that are difficult. Archangel Jophiel not only helps us and supports us in is seeing the beauty that is around us, but she also helps to move our attention into the things that are positive, that are uplifting, which also gives us the resources that we need to help and support us as we're waiting, as we're creating, as we're manifesting. So, if I look at all of the messages that I have coming up today, there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of faith that's coming through. And there's a lot of encouragement to know that you are on the right track. You are heading in the right direction. And the things that you're doing are leading to what you're hoping to create, what you're wanting to see in your world and the greater world around you. So have patience, have faith, and know that your prayers are being heard. Awesome. So let's take a look and say hello to everybody who's joined us today. It's always so good to see you guys. And I love it when you comment and say hello. One of the things that I really saw last week was you guys like talking and interacting with each other in the comments. As long as you're being nice and supportive, I so love that. I think it's amazing the community that we have here. And I'm so grateful that you guys are here. So hello to Kareen and to Amethyst, Jessica Lynn. Hello. Happy Sunday to you too. We have Lisa and Leslie. Hello, it's wonderful to see you again. Carrie, hello. You're welcome for the cards. We don't normally do cards on our Oracle chats, but today it just felt right. So I'm glad that it hit a good spot. Hello, Anastasia. I'm so glad that you caught us live too. I mean me. I'm so glad you caught me live today too. Pardon me. We've got Carrie and Kai. Oh, Kai, it's been so long since I've seen you. I'm so glad you're on today. Hello to JC. I'm so glad that you found the live link. Thank you, Amethyst. I'm getting there. Amethyst has just wished me feeling better, and it's coming. This has been more than 6 weeks that I've been dealing with this cough, and I'm just kind of a day at a time. I've got my super immunity juice here. I blend it with lemon and a couple of oranges and some fresh ginger, so it packs a punch. And I'm hoping that it's punching the immune system into high gear. And Jessica, I'm not sure if it's Jessica or Jessica Lynn, so my apologies. Jessica is saying patience is my goal. Yeah, absolutely. They say patience is a virtue, and it can definitely be one of those really difficult and challenging things to grow and to manifest and to create for yourself. We really live in a society that's so focused on seeing results, seeing immediate results or really quick results. And the idea of that long build, that slow build, that working towards something that is significant and tangible and worthwhile to put in that effort can be really difficult. The other thing is sometimes when we're right in the middle of it, it's difficult to see the progress that we've made, particularly if we're looking at progress over an extended period of time. I think of, say, like a weight loss journey. You might not necessarily see the weight loss that's happening or the transformation that's happening in your body over the days, because you see yourself every day. You look at yourself every day in the mirror. But somebody who maybe hasn't seen you for 6 months can say, wow, you've really changed. You look really different, because they have those reference points and they haven't seen the process and the progress that's happened in between. On top of that, it also means that they haven't seen what you've been doing either. So it's really easy to see what's happening on the outside for somebody and not necessarily be completely aware of everything that's gone into coming to that point and being at that point. And like the example that I'm giving here is one that's physical, that is physically aware when you look at somebody. But I know many of us are on journeys of like self-growth and healing and empowerment and improvement. And those aren't things that are necessarily readily visible to people. And so it can take a bit of time for them to spend with us before they really say, wow, you've really changed. I can see how your mindset changed, or your outlook has changed, or you don't it seem like you're hurt over things that you've really been hurt over in the past. And sometimes people don't see that at all, because that's not something that's on their personal radar. So know that your patience is always worthwhile, that we all have journeys that are completely different from other people. Awesome. And Jerry, it's always so good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. And thank you for welcoming me into your home. That is such a beautiful gift. Thank you. So I want to throw it out there. Does anybody have any questions that they've been thinking about or that they've been wondering about? We're not doing personal readings today. I'll be live on Tuesday night on my Heavenly Messenger page. If you want a personal reading, I do them on that show. But this show is really an opportunity to talk about other things that are happening, that are going on, other questions that you may have. I know that we have a little bit of a delay in the video. So as I'm speaking, it still hasn't reached you yet. So while you guys are possibly like concocting some amazing questions or comments or things that you want to talk about, I'm going to talk about something that's been coming up for me as being really relevant. And it's the idea of validity. And it kind of piggybacks on some of the things that we've been talking about. Somehow I have found myself following a lot of social media pages that have to do with parenting and development of children and child, and the things that can be really helpful and beneficial for them. And one of the things that really comes up is the idea of focusing on and fostering an internal sense of pride. So rather than if your child or a person has done something and said, wow, I'm really proud of you, you might instead choose to ask, wow, are you proud of yourself for what you've done? Because when we offer praise from an external place, what we're doing is we're basically teaching a child or teaching a person that in order to feel good about something that they've done, they need to look outside of themselves for that validation, or for that sense of pride and that sense of, I've really done something because this person has seen it in me. And instead, the idea comes to focus on encouraging them to look at the feelings that they have from their own sense of accomplishment and the things that they've done. And though these conversations are primarily geared towards the relationships between parent and child, they also feel incredibly significant for the relationships that we have with other adults and that we have with ourselves. And it's something that I've actually been thinking about a lot. And I find that I don't take time for myself to really slow down and to appreciate the things that I've done. And even though I would consider myself a relatively aware person, this is something that's still pretty new for me. And, not only the idea of pride in the accomplishments that you have or the things that you've done, but I also see this as being relevant to us as we move along on our intuitive journeys. As people become more intuitive and therefore more psychic, or connecting more with deceased loved ones, or for whatever reason you're developing your intuition. The idea of external validation So finding ways to validate yourself from the intuitions that you receive, whether you're receiving intuitions for yourself or for others. It certainly can be easier in some ways if you have messages that are safe for you to give to somebody else that is for their benefit, if it's something that they're open to. And if they have awareness enough in order to be able to validate or to confirm, like, yeah, that really makes sense for me, or I've been thinking about that, or, thank you, because that is a way to gain validation. Um, but I think that it's also really important to make sure that we're focusing on our own internal validations, which means that we're practicing and focusing more on the intuitions that we receive for ourselves. One of the things I talk about when we talk about um, developing intuition, I really like to encourage people to keep a journal. And the reason for that is, one, it helps you to keep track of all of the messages that you've received, the understandings that you've had, and then as they start to happen or to come true, or you're able to validate them because things are happening, then you're able to go back and say, oh, wow, I did that. Sometimes we don't quite have the interpretation right on the message. And we can look back in our journal and we can say, oh, I thought it was going to be this thing, but it actually ended up being this thing instead. That's awesome. I can learn from that. And the next time I get that message or a similar message, I'll have a better idea and understanding of what's happening because I've learned from this experience. And also, when we first start out on our intuitive journeys and that exploration, ego really likes to step in and say, and say, you think you got that? Oh, no, you didn't. And you can say, hey, ego, I've got this whole book full of things that I intuited that either I learned from or that I was able to confirm and validate for myself. So go stick it in your ear. I don't know if ego has the flexibility to stick whatever it might be in its ear, but we're going to go with that one today. Pardon me. So yeah, there are a lot of benefits to doing that. So I invite you, as I will do myself as well, to find ways to offer validation to yourself. This is also a really great exercise if you are working on building and developing trust. Often we go through traumatic experiences with other people. And one of the things that we need to rebuild for ourselves is not only trust in relationships, potentially with other people, but also the trust that we have in ourselves. And often part of the path that our mind will take is it will say, well, if I allowed this to happen to myself, how can I trust myself to not allow this to happen again? And what we can do is we can start to rebuild that trust by finding those inner ways of validating ourselves and showing ourselves that we can trust ourselves, not only because we're learning from the experience that we've gone through, but also because we're finding those little ways to validate ourselves as we go along. And it could be that we end up in a place where our ability to trust ourselves is far greater than what it was before that traumatic experience happened. And you know what? I just have to say, that is so incredibly exciting to me. Put up your hand. Let me know. Is that something that's exciting to you? For me, like the idea of learning, growing, having a better understanding of myself. Because when I understand myself, it's easier to have an understanding of the people around me. And so that's something that's exciting. Let me know. How do you guys feel about that? Awesome. Okay, so I see that we've got a couple of questions coming in. Let me see. Carrie, I'm going to see if I can find a way to make that a broader, more general question rather than kind of more of a reading question. So I'm going to come back to that because I feel like there's a way that I can do that. Okay, so we've got Amethyst here. Hi, Amethyst. I always love connecting with you. How can you recognize the difference between when you're feeling guidance from higher power or being distracted by ego and fear? Yeah, you know what? I actually saw a really amazing meme today that described this really well. I'll see if I can find it after the show, and I'll post it on the my Heavenly Messenger Facebook page and also on the Universal Connections Facebook page. And basically what it is ego will keep you trapped. Ego is anything that holds you down, keep you back, and usually it has kind of an ick feeling to it. And so sometimes there's a sense of guilt or a sense of obligation or um, and often if ego is something that you've dealt with um, for a long time, I find this often for people who have grown up in fairly strict religions, because that's part of what is often taught, is there's a familiar feeling of oppression and kind of being held down, where messages that are coming from intuition or from higher power, instead of being just a circle like this that's closing you in, it's keeping you tied in, it's actually more of a spiral. It is slow steps, progressive steps that are helping to move you forward. And so rather than feeling in, it's actually really open and expansive. Sometimes when we receive intuitive messages or messages from higher power, what we're experiencing is we do experience a little bit of fear, because we're being asked to do something that is often outside of our comfort zone. Typically, ego is trying to hold us in our comfort zone because this is what we know, this is what's safe. And when we're receiving messages from intuition and higher power, we're focusing on improvement or betterment or forward movement. And so sometimes there can be a bit of fear that comes with that because we are being asked to move outside of our comfort zone. However, always one of the feelings that will come in, even if it's something that we're fearful of or that we have resistance towards because maybe it's something that we've been putting off for a long time, there will always be an underlying sense of feeling that, yeah, I can do this. If it feels overwhelming, ask if there's a smaller step. Because in the example that I'm kind of feeling coming to the forefront for me, sometimes the change that is being asked of us is something that's been asked of us for a long time. And possibly it's come into us from like a negative perspective. Oh, you really need to make that change in your life. Um, and so we build up resistance to it. Sometimes we have stories around why we can't do it or why we can't experience it. And so even when we feel these gentle nudges to make change, there's so much resistance that we've already built up that egos really help to reinforce for us. And so sometimes what we need to do is say, hey, okay, well, I get that this is coming through as a message because I'm feeling inspired by it, but this feels like a really big step for me to take. Is there something smaller that I can do? And usually intuition will help to say, hey, yeah, awesome. I see that you want to be on that path. Let's find something else. The other way to differentiate is there's often a feeling of you should when it's ego. You should do this, you shouldn't do that. And it's something that is external from us. Where when it's in intuition or it's something that's coming from place of higher power, it's often an I could, or it comes from the place of I. This is something I can do, as opposed to you should, because you should is that ego coming back at us. So those are some of the ways. But your intuition, anything that's coming from higher power, even if it's something that you're afraid to do or you're concerned about doing because it is outside of your comfort zone, will always come with feelings of empowerment. It will always be something that makes you feel good, even if it's something that you're concerned about. And that's, I think, one of the biggest ways that you can differentiate what is ego and fear and what is something that is intuitive or coming from higher power. That is such an awesome question, Amy. Thank you so much for asking. Let me see. I'm just kind of popping back to Carrie and your question. And basically what I'm seeing is Carrie's specific question is, how can I assist my daughter in her journey? And I think what I want to talk about and to answer is, how can I best empower somebody who is maybe struggling to find their path? And I think one of the best things that we can do for people who are in that position and situation, for example, youth coming up, we've got a lot of, well, obviously we've got a lot of youth in high school, but we're in a place where we're starting to see graduations, and we're heading into the summer month, and then possibly going back into school or into something else in September. The things that I would really encourage you to focus on when you're connecting with those people is encouraging them to focus on the positives. So actually, a lot of the things that we've already talked about, that own internal validation, that feeling of pride and accomplishment, and connecting with the feeling and emotion of the things that feel good. Usually in teenage years, there's a lot that's coming up. My experience is more with girls or young women. I don't have as much experience with boys, so that's kind of what I'm speaking to. My hope is that if your question, I know Carrie's is for her daughter, but if your question is about a young boy or a young man in your life, that you're able to see where where maybe I'm going with it, and it should apply to boys as well. But yeah, that feeling of um, pride and accomplishment and validation, because that really helps and supports people when it comes to finding their path and getting on track. Because often we flounder in those initial years. And part of the reason we flounder is because there are so many options. And I know for youth today, I know that I experienced that 25-ish years ago, coming into adulthood. Like it was amazing, because my parents, my mom and dad both are baby boomers, and for my mom, the main work options that were available for women was nursing, teaching, or becoming a mom. And so for me, 35 some odd years later, the choices were much broader, which on the one hand was absolutely amazing, because look at how far we'd come in such a short amount of time. But on the other hand, was incredibly overwhelming. And so potentially helping to narrow down the things that are viable for her, and helping to see who they are as people. Okay, I really hope that helps. And if it didn't, pop onto my show on Tuesday. I would love to connect with you for that question. Okay, so we've got Jerry. Jerry said, I made a big change. Amazing. Congratulations on my path this past week. Excited over it, and seeing positive changes every day. That's amazing. I am proof that you can never keep an old lady down. Oh my gosh, Jerry, I so wish you were here in person, because you've just got such an amazing energy, and I would absolutely love to laugh with you and to share some giggles. That's awesome. And I noticed that your post came in at 4:44 p.m. My time, and I just want to put out there, for me, multiple fours. That's an angel number. That means that your angels are with you, helping you and supporting you. So I just want to say, to know that not only do you have your own willpower with that, but you definitely have a lot of help and support behind you too, and that's awesome. And just to kind of take a little segue, because I love talking about intuition and psychic ability, and the way that manifests. For me, 444, that multiple number, that really speaks to me, that stands out. And this is actually an example of a clairvoyant message, because it was something that I saw. It's literally right next to Jerry's name in my comment section here that I see. And so it's just another form of confirmation. And I mention that and say that because often people are not 100% sure how messages are coming through for them. And clairvoyance is such a really big topic. It's really over misrepresented by Hollywood. So basically, clairvoyance, which means clear sight, comes through in any sort of visual cue that you see that means something to you. All right. Awesome. Well, congratulations, and keep up the great work, Jerry. That's awesome. Hi, Nancy. I'm so glad that you joined us today. Thanks for popping on. And I'm not really sure why I'm saying us, because it's me physically here, but us in the greater community. Brenda, yes, I'm so incredibly blessed, and grateful for the space that I am in here. We have the Pacific Ocean behind me, which is incredible. And there's been a lot of work that's been happening in the outer area, behind the house, and I am definitely reclaiming some of that, as outdoor space for myself, which is cool. Right now, I don't have grass yet, which is what I need in order to start seeing people in person here, and also for courses and classes. It has taken much longer than initially anticipated, because I thought I would be up and running for the beginning of July, and that is not the case. So my hope is sooner rather than later, but I don't know when that's going to happen. And Brenda, it's always great to see you. I'm so glad that you hopped on today. Let me see. And I just want to put it out there because I'm seeing some reading questions coming in. We're not doing readings on the show today. I do those only on Tuesdays because it's just too much for me to do 2 days in the week of readings on a live show. So if you want a reading, please pop over on Tuesday. Let me see. Oh, Jessica, awesome. Jessica's saying that it's exciting to me too. And I think that this is probably going back to the comments we were talking about with learning and growing, finding out more about ourselves, understanding others through that. And Jessica's saying, I'm going through massive change and growth right now. It's leading me to do much learning, and I often feel like I can't learn enough. That's amazing. Incredible. Congratulations. I'm excited about the growth that you're going through. Often when we're learning about ourselves, it is some of the most challenging and difficult times. So do know that it is worthwhile. And I'm so excited for what you're going through because always on the other side of it, there are some really amazing things too. I'm so glad that you shared with us. And I'm sending like big, huge love and encouragement and support your way. That's amazing. I did have something that was popping in. Yes. So one of the things that I've noticed, I can't remember if I've talked about it on our show or not, but one of the things that I've noticed, I found myself guilty of it as well, is this need to learn more and more and more that's really external. And on the one hand, it's incredibly exciting. We live in a time where literally almost all of the information available in the world is available to you at your fingertips. And it is really easy to get caught up in the feeling of, I need to learn more. I need to learn more. I see this a lot in the work that I do because when people are connecting with me, either for readings or like live on a show like this, or in courses and classes, it's usually because they're on a journey and they're wanting to learn more and discover about themselves and to gain more. And to me, incredibly exciting. But I think part of the challenge comes in is it's really easy to learn things on surface level. And then when that's not answering and addressing the way that you saw it addressing, instead of going in and digging in with more depth, we look for the next thing and for the next thing and for the next thing. And so for me, with the learning that I've done up to this point, I get it. I still want to learn more and more and more because there's so many things that are exciting. But one of the big things that I'm focusing on right now is I'm focusing on moving into deeper depth. So taking the things that I already know and I already have an understanding of, and moving more deeply to understand it at a deeper, more meaningful level. I think one of the things that can really tell us about how far we've come in our learning process is not only being able to understand it for ourselves and to apply it to ourselves, but also to understand it well enough to be able to effectively share it with somebody else so that they can have an understanding of it too and be able to potentially apply it to themselves. And so that's part of the shift that I've been making in the learning that I've been doing recently. One of the benefits for me with COVID the last couple of years is it's taken a lot of pressure off of my plate because I usually have a really busy teaching schedule as well as my readings. And because I haven't been seeing people in person, I've only been doing online and haven't been teaching classes either. It's really opened up an opportunity to do more learning. And so instead of more and more and more, deeper and deeper and deeper, bigger understanding. Awesome. Maxine, hello. It's always so good to see you. I'm so glad that you popped on today. Oh, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. We're not doing readings today. I so wish that I was. I hope that you can join me on Tuesday. It's too much to do the readings on both of the shows during the week. So my apologies for that. La, da, da, da. And same for Kaylee, for Barbara. We're not doing the readings today, so thanks. Let me see. And same for Barbara for her next question here too. Let me see, Amy, you are so welcome. I'm so glad that it was helpful. And we've got Jerry here. Hi, Jerry. Jerry saying my aim is to meet up with both you and Bobby soon. Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize that you were close. That's fabulous. I would really love one day for Bobby and I to be doing something together in person as well. I don't know what that's going to look like. We've done a couple of things kind of in the past because we both used to attend the same spirit shows and spirit fairs, which was always lots of fun. But neither of us are really doing those at the moment. So I'm sure that there will be an opportunity, which would be super exciting. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Maxine. I really appreciate that understanding. It was a really hard line for me to create, and it's a lot easier when Bobby and I are sitting here and talking and chatting. So yeah. Oh, Lisa, hello. It's always so good to see you. I'm so glad that you joined us today. Thanks for popping on. And I know that Lisa was at the Spirit Fair, the Metaphysical Show in Parksville this week. So I hope that you had a wonderful and amazing time. One of the great things with things starting to open up is there's opportunity to connect with community again. And I think that that's something that a lot of people have really been missing. So I'm excited to see that. I'm excited when I see people connecting and doing that even more too. That's fabulous. Let me see. So we've got Amethyst here. Have there been any whale or marine life sightings lately? You always enjoy my the sighting stories. I have a couple of really amazing sighting stories. The most recent one, actually, and I share this one with Lisa too. I hope that you'll get a giggle over this because I know that Lisa's also had similar experiences. Not last night, but the night before, I was not able to sleep. I didn't get to sleep until about 6:30 in the morning. And at about 4:30, I just happened to look out the window and the sun was starting to come up. And I thought, wow, what an amazing opportunity to go and to sit outside to enjoy this beautiful moment. And so as soon as I opened my door to go outside and I walked out, I noticed, like, literally just behind where I am sitting right now, there was a little raccoon, and he was running across and just on our neighbor's property around the corner. I won't show you because we've got a pile of stuff that needs to be dealt with there. He's got like a cement barrier so that the tide doesn't take his property away, and the raccoon just sat there and watched me, and I watched it, and it was for about 5 minutes. I walked out closer to the shore because I really wanted to get some pictures and some video of the sun coming up, and I kept looking over, and there was that raccoon just sitting there watching me, and I was able to watch it and to connect. So that was really exciting. But also probably one of my most favorite experiences out here, we actually don't really see a lot of whales. My family has been here for it'll be 19 years in October of this year, and we tend not to see a lot of whales. We do see a lot of seals and sea lions. We see a lot of otters as well. Fish and ducks and lots of eagles and things, but we don't see a huge number of whales. And this particular day, it was in August, I had my tent set up just behind where my laptop is here, so it's very open to the water. I had just started doing readings again because I'd had a fairly major surgery, and it took a while for me to heal and recover. And this one particular day, I had about a half an hour between the two readings, and I was sitting in my chair and I thought, do I answer some emails because I have some emails that are waiting for me, or do I just sit and relax? And as I asked that question, I heard this this great big and so I look over, and sure enough, there was a whale, a huge whale, just cruising through the strait, doing the big and that was a really clear message to just sit back and enjoy. So that's what I did. And not only not only was it a really cool and an amazing experience, um, it's also a really great example of how you can ask for a sign and not necessarily be specific with it. I don't think I was even really asking for a sign. I was asking more my logical brain, do you need to rest or do you need to answer these emails? And there was a sign. I couldn't dispute it. So I had a really lovely couple of minutes connecting with this beautiful whale as he or she made his way down south. So that was really exciting. And we also had another whale visitor several years ago. There was a non-resident whale. I believe he was called a transient whale, who had become separated from the rest of his pod. And a couple of days after this, he ended up making a lot of mischief in the harbor in Comox, because what he was doing was he was picking up the anchors for boats in the harbor and just dragging them around. I think this was back in 2017. It may have been 2018. So we're talking a couple of years ago. And my nephew was visiting at the time. And I was sitting at the table. I was talking with my mom. And I just happened to look out. And there was this fin that went by. And the fin was, you can't really see the buoy, but it was very, very close to shore. The way that the shore works here is it has a long way out, and then it drops very significantly. And it's just out past that we have boats mooring. And so he was on this side of the buoys where boats are moored. So I think he was probably swimming right up along that edge. So that was on his way to the party that he had in Comox. After. So as I said, we do definitely have a lot of really beautiful marine sightings here. Sometimes they bring messages with them, and other times it's just really enjoyable to watch and connect with them. Awesome. Thanks for asking, Amy. Hi, Rose. I'm so glad that you joined us today. Yeah, Lisa, it was a really beautiful and magical experience. And Jerry's saying, let's meet on the beach. Absolutely. We'll have to have a beach meeting soon. And Amy's saying, awesome. Lisa's saying, whales speak love in the most ancient form. Absolutely. I mean, whales are just so beautiful and incredible and gentle in so many ways. One of the things when we do see them, often a lot of people go out in their kayaks and they get really close. And I'm glad to see that we haven't been seeing as much of that here the last several years, because we can really interfere with them, and it's important to be respectful of them and their space. Yeah. Oh, and Maxine, no way. Maxine saying, I was in one of those boats he played with. That is incredible. I absolutely believe that. And would love to hear. And she's saying he sure scared some paddleboarders and kayakers. Yeah. He was having a good time. Um, and I just wonder, how long did it take you guys to realize that he was out there playing and having fun with you? I feel like I pulled 2 card decks out with me. And the other one that I pulled is the Mermaids and Dolphins. So I feel like we just need, for everybody who's on right now, what do we need to know? We need a Mermaids and Dolphins card, because this beautiful energy has been invited in for us. So hold on. We're going to pick 3, because 3 is such a magical number too. And I also want to share the messages that came up as I was witnessing this beautiful sunrise the other day. So the first card that we have here is self-employment. I am always so excited when this card comes up for people, because it means that there are things that you need to be focusing on yourself. The mermaids and the dolphins, they are very elemental, and they connect more with things on a material level in our world, as well as the joy and the love and the playfulness that they bring through too. So anytime this card comes up, it's usually a message that we need to be focusing on things that are for ourselves, that are going to benefit us, as well as to benefit other people too. So if anybody has been looking at anything in terms of their own business, exploring something that they're passionate about, see, this is a really good confirmation of that message. The next card that we have here is synchronicity. I love it when this card comes up too. And it's actually always a really wonderful opportunity to talk about what synchronicity is. I find that synchronicity is kind of one of those new agey words that has become more mainstream, and people have a general idea of what it is, but don't really have a really deep understanding of it. And so it's actually really cool that we now have this word. I'm going to backtrack for a second. Apparently, there is an aspect or element of a Chinese language where they only have one word for the color red. So, like, not crimson or maroon or other things like that, but red, the color is just red. And as a result, people who speak this language as their native language don't differentiate different shades of red because there aren't different things to identify it. So, synchronicity is actually an idea that was introduced not that long ago. I believe that it was introduced by Carl Jung. And so synchronicity is when something happens that is outside of yourself, that you have no control over, but that is meaningful and significant to you. And so, in a lot of ways, this is part of also how we receive messages, too. Like sometimes the messages that we receive are things that happen outside of ourselves. We have no control over them, but they have meaning to us. For example, if you've been watching for a while, Jerry had made a comment that was really interesting, and I noticed that she had posted it at 4:44 p.m. That was something that I saw that was outside of myself, that I had absolutely no control over, but that was significant and meaningful to me. And so I was able to share a message about that. In that instance, that's what it was. Sometimes synchronicity manifests as different opportunities that happen for us. So the idea of being in the right place at the right time, and everything just kind of happens. If you look at a lot of the stories of, say, people becoming famous or people becoming really, wealthy or doing things, it's because they've been in the right place at the right time. And if they hadn't been there, then that track may have still happened, but would have likely looked quite different. And so synchronicity, as I said, is this idea of something that's happening outside of yourself that has meaning and significance to you. And in the English language, we didn't have a word for that until it was introduced at some point in the 1900s. As I said, I think it's Carl Jung, but I'd have to double check. And he was the one who introduced this idea. And so now that we have this idea, it's something that becomes a possibility in our lives because we have a word for it, and there's something that has a meaning. So I guess, the flip side of that is we can also take a look at all of the new words that are that are forming. In my household, crankipated is 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 one that's coming up, and it is used to describe somebody who is consistently cranky. It's kind of like cranky and constipated together. So potentially being cranky due to constipation. Anyway, all of these different, as we have words for things, it opens up new opportunities. So the message on the synchronicity card, going back to it, your prayers and questions are being answered by synchronistic events. Notice them in order to increase their flow. If you were here with us from the very beginning, we pulled a couple of angel cards at the beginning, and that's a lot of what we had coming up there too. It's just another aspect and element to round it out, that to have patience, to know that our prayers are being answered, and to get outside and to make sure that you're connecting with that energy of life. So synchronicity, things are happening. Continue to put your energy into things, but also be open to and be aware of when things are happening outside of that. And this card is really interesting. The last card that popped through is the Mother Healing card. As your feelings towards your mother heal, your desires manifest more rapidly and accurately. And it's interesting, especially in a really broad and general reading, because this is appropriate for anybody who's live on the show now, anybody who watches this after. This is appropriate for all of us. And so perhaps there's healing that you're needing to do in the relationship that you have with your mother. But I think one of the bigger things has to do with nurturing. Our parental relationships are one of the first opportunities that we have in this physical body to experience love, to experience nurturing, to experience healing. And I believe that this is an opportunity for us to focus on how we need to be nurtured and how we need to be healed. I was actually having this conversation with a client today, and one of the things that came up was that she was working on parenting herself, and it kind of clicked. And the message that came through is that, first of all, first and foremost, parents are not perfect. In fact, if they were, I think that would probably cause even more damage to children. Because can you imagine the expectations that would be upon you if you had parents who actually were perfect? Um, so parents are not perfect. They're doing the best that they can with the resources that they have. Not only are parents raising children, but they're also dealing with all of the other stresses in life, money and finances and jobs and relationships and other things that happen too. There's a lot that happens. And until we're fully formed beings, and until we have the opportunity to be out and away from parental influences, we're not often able to fully and completely understand all of the things that we need to nurture ourselves and to heal ourselves. And so to expect that our parents would know that and be in a position to provide it, that's a pretty big ask. And so as adults, we have the opportunity to come to the understanding of what it is that we need to nurture and to support ourselves. And we hopefully are also coming into a place where we're able to give that to ourselves. So see this as an invitation to further that healing that we've kind of been talking about. What is it that you need to nurture and to support yourself, to show yourself love? Yes, we can definitely ask for this from the people in our lives, from the people that we love, and I would encourage you to do that. But also at the end of the day, how can you make sure that you have the love and the support that you need from yourself? And this may all go back into the idea of validation, of that pride in ourselves, for ourselves, and that journey that's there. Awesome. Um, and I'm just catching up with the comments here. Maxine saying that the whale that we had in the area, he was on vacation. Yeah, he was absolutely having a good time. Yeah, and Jessica is saying, speaking of synchronicities, I just looked up and saw 44, like 44, and then the colon that we use in time, 44. That's awesome. I so love that. Anytime multiple fours come up, for me, that really jives and resonates. So I'm excited that you saw that too, Jessica. And Lisa, awesome. I'm glad that you popped in on synchronicity. And she says, synchronicity drew me on Facebook and on the opportunity to connect with your beautiful energy. Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Thank you. I've been pulling in joy and peace all day, and you're the icing on the cake. You know what? I don't think I have ever been told that I was icing on a cake before, but that feels absolutely amazing and very sweet. And I hope that you will also be the icing on my cake too. I don't know if that's something that you ask for permission for, but it's just going to happen. Oh my gosh. And Amethyst is saying, I'm happy that you have the ocean showing as your background. It's so, yes, me too. I'm so glad that we were able to be out here. It's so calming. I'm able to stay completely tuned in while relaxing at the same time. That's amazing and incredible. I mean, I have to be completely honest. I am so grateful for each and every one of you who are sitting with me, because I find that I struggle to have the attention to sit in front of a screen and to watch and to connect in that way. So I am so grateful, first of all, that you guys are here with me and you're joining and connecting with me. And Amy, I'm so glad that you've been able to clue into the ocean is just such a beautiful and magical energy that we have. Like the life that is present in the ocean on so many levels is just so amazing. If you do have access to an ocean. Like, for example, living here on Vancouver Island, it's an island. We're literally surrounded by it. But we have a lot of landlocked provinces like Alberta and Saskatchewan and so forth. And so sometimes, you just don't have access to ocean the way that we do. But if you do have access to the ocean and there are things that you're releasing, one of the best ways to do it is to connect with the energy of the ocean. Go for a walk, take your shoes off, go into that salt water. Salt in and of itself is incredibly clearing. It's very powerful. It is something that has been used since long ago. It's part of Wiccan tradition, so we're going back quite a ways, to use as a cleansing and a clearing tool. So the ocean, I mean, it's salt water. That's literally what it is. But also it has such an amazing life force all of its own, not only in terms of the life that lives within it, but the power that the ocean has to bring life as well. It's pretty amazing. Let me see. Carrie's suggesting that the Comox area must have made him frisky. Carrie, I'm so glad. Without Bobby being here, we haven't gone into that realm. So I'm glad that you are bringing it up to keep it alive. Bobby will be very happy, and my hope is that she will be on with us next week. And Lisa, I think, is probably laughing at the icing. Oh no, Abby, I'm so sorry. All this icing talk. Now she wants cake. You know what? I now want cake too. Yeah, and Veronica, it is really beautiful. I'm so glad that you love the ocean. If there is interest, I'm more than happy to take some video of the ocean and just throw it up on Facebook so that you guys can watch. I do have the part of the sunrise from the other morning, but I was talking over it, so it might not be really helpful. But pardon me. The messages that came through were really powerful, which was part of the reason that I took the video and shared the video. And it's on my Heavenly Messenger Facebook page, and I can share it on the Universal Connections page as well. And basically what was coming through was the idea of connection. The sun rising and falling every day, the rise and the fall of the moon, the stars coming out in the sky, whether it is something that we can see or that we perceive, it is something that happens every day without any work or focus on our part. It is one of the constants and the consistence that we can depend upon in our world. The only constant that you can depend upon in life, they say, are taxes and change. But the other constants that we're overlooking are also the sun, the moon, and the stars. The other constant and the connection is that every single person who is living now or has ever lived on this earth in the millennia that humans have been on the earth has watched the sunrise, has watched it move through the sky, has watched it set, has watched the moon, has looked at the moon, has looked up at the stars. And in the early days, as we were learning, these are the things that we learned from. This is the foundation of all of the knowledge that we have as a race, as a species, as an understanding of our world. Watching the sun, the moon, the stars. This is something that every person has ever done. So if you ever feel disconnected, or you feel lonely, or you feel lost, literally the sun, the moon, and the stars have guided us in so many different ways for the entirety of the human existence and the human experience. If you ever feel lost or disconnected, you can go out and you can connect with these things that are constant and stable in our lives. And I think that's a really powerful thing, and it's a really awe-inspiring thing. The last several years, as I have looked up at the stars, I've always been fascinated by the moon and the stars in particular. And anytime I look up at them, I'm always in awe of the fact that literally every human has looked at these stars, has seen these stars, has found solace in these stars, has wished on these stars. All of these things that we do, everybody has done. And if you haven't done it yet, give yourself the gift of going out one evening when the stars are out. Being here again on Vancouver Island, we're really fortunate because we do have a lot of areas where there isn't a lot of light pollution, where we can really enjoy the moon and the stars. If you are in a city, you might need to go out a little bit further, but I hope that that's something that you can do because it's a really amazing experience. Here in the Okay, this is embarrassing. I am pretty sure that we are in the northern hemisphere. I know for sure we're not in the south, but I can never remember if it's north, south, or east, west. I'm positive it's north. Don't laugh too much. Here in the northern hemisphere in August, there is an absolutely amazing meteor shower that happens, and you can see shooting stars in the meteor shower. It's incredible. If there is a time that you're able to get out in August to experience that, I highly recommend it. Awesome. Oh, cool. I'm so glad. Carrie's just saying here that she's so grateful for our beautiful areas. Me too. It's amazing. And I'm so glad that you enjoyed the sunrise video too. That's awesome. So Ami's asking, how does connecting with water and nature via rivers and lakes differ from the ocean, or does it? Like the water is different in rivers and lakes. I think that it's equally powerful, equally meaningful. There certainly can be a lot more movement in river waters, and so that could be really helpful with cleansing. The primary difference for me, again, my knowledge is apparently lacking in this area, but I am 99% positive that oceans are the primary source of salt water. Now, that said, I know that the Dead Sea is certainly salted. But that would be one of the differences. The majority of rivers and lakes are freshwater, and so they wouldn't have the salt content. They would still have life, and they certainly have life force to them. But salt is a really powerful cleansing tool. So that's one of the biggest differences between ocean water and fresh waters. That said, water is it's all connected. It's all the same. It is all purifying and cleansing, and there's a lot of movement that happens with it too. Yes. And I see here, I know I'm missing a couple of comments, but Ami's saying that we are in the northern hemisphere. Thank you. I'm so glad that I got that one right. Lisa, that's awesome. I'm so glad that it resonated for you. Oh, good. And I see Leslie here as well. I'm so glad that resonated for you too, and that you enjoyed the sunrise video. That's amazing. Yeah, one of the things that I'm really hoping to do over the next couple of weeks, because we're coming up on the new moon, the full moon. I've taken some full moon ceremony photos, and I'm hoping to possibly do some form of live as I do my full moon work. So it won't be scripted. It'll be just kind of come as you are. I'll see about giving you guys like a 10 or 15 minute warning to come out and join me. But yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so the rest of Ami's comment here, we are in the northern hemisphere. Interesting point about the sun, moon, and stars. People tap into the collective consciousness by connecting with them. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you think about how we have all in some way, shape, or form connected with that, that's a steady, that's a constant, and that's a consistent. And going back even further, before we had GPS, people would use the sun, moon, and stars to navigate. Sailors and travelers and explorers. It's literally how we learned about our world. It's a foundation of our world, and so the skies is really what many of our cultures and societies looked to understand what was happening around us. We looked to nature first because that was what was here, and we built and developed from it. Our current way of living is so far removed and disconnected to that, and it's only in a very short amount of time. We've got a lot of weight coming in. I'm hoping that you guys can hear me over it. Or maybe we'll just take a moment to enjoy it. I can't remember what I was saying, but obviously it wasn't important. Hi, JC. I'm so glad that you joined us today and that you found the link. That's awesome. Well, my friends, well, here, I was going to sign off, but let's just focus on this. Let's just share a moment together. Awesome. Awesome. I'm so glad that you guys were able to enjoy that. That was courtesy of the power boat that we have running around in the background. I'm sure that you've been able to hear him running through. And so they always create a bit of a wake and a wave for us, which is really awesome. Fabulous. Jennifer, I'm so incredibly glad that it was relaxing for you and it made you think of your grandpa. And it was just a pleasure to share that with you guys. Thank you. I don't see any other questions or really big comments coming up. I will give us a couple of seconds if anybody has anything else that's coming up for them. Um, but awesome. Amy has here. I absolutely love this live stream. Amy, I'm so incredibly glad and I'm grateful that you joined us today. Thank you. Lots of nature therapy. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your hope and blessings for my health and well-being. I'm super excited about starting to feel better too. Yes, Jennifer's saying he must be thinking about me. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's a really wonderful thing when we have loved ones who have crossed over and throughout different moments in the day we're reminded of them. Absolutely know that they're thinking about you, that they're with you, they're helping, supporting, and loving you. So I'm so incredibly glad that he was able to come through for you today in that message. That's really beautiful. Awesome. Carrie, it's always a pleasure connecting with you too. I'm so glad that you were here today and that there was something that you gained. Lisa, always a pleasure connecting with you too. I'm so excited that you were able to pop on and that you were drawn in. And Jessica, other Jessica, it's always a pleasure connecting with you too. Thank you. And Jennifer, to you as well. I really appreciate you. Thank you all so much for joining me this afternoon. Bobby should be back with me next week. We'll have a lot of fun. And in 2 weeks on July the 10th, we will be starting to have our some guest visitors coming on and talking. We've got 2 lined up. I've got some people in mind for more, Lisa. So looking forward to sharing some other people's ideas too. We will definitely be posting more about that. So you guys have an idea of who will be on with us. And hopefully you've got some questions or things to ask about too. Sending big hugs, lots of love and support your way. Remember, patience, that you are being helped, being supported. Look for the opportunities for synchronicity and take a moment to be outside as well. Sending big hugs, lots of love and support your way. I will see you on Tuesday for my Connection with Intention show on my Heavenly Messenger page, and Sunday right here for Oracle Chats with Bobby again. Good night, everyone.